Good evening, and thank you so very, very much for joining us this evening. Much of our evening has been devoted to remembrance, but I want to thank two of our speakers for giving us some wonderful news to celebrate. Joe and Mika, congratulations on your wedding last month at the National Archives building. From what has been reported, Mika has decided to take Joe's name. As a former student and devoted colleague of her father's, I don't understand why she would do this, because Scarborough is so hard to spell. As regular viewers of Morning Joe can attest, I used to call Mika every March to remind her about her father's birthday. This year, I decided to remind her of Joe's birthday. And now I have a new job, which is to remind them both about the date of their anniversary. I want to add an enthusiastic welcome to many of our distinguished guests from Congress and the diplomatic community, as well as our partners in government and in civil society. And I also want to thank NDI's board members and supporters. Because of your generosity, tonight's dinner has, in fact, shattered records, and we've raised more than $1 million to support our work. So thank you all very, very much. So this evening's celebration is not only a fitting tribute to all that NDI has accomplished in the past, but it's also an incredible vote of confidence in our future. So let me begin on a personal note. Some 35 years ago, I was honored to serve as NDI's founding vice chair. And if you do your math backwards, you will realize that I was about 15 years old at the time, and it's amazing how much I remember. Back then, the world was still divided between the red and the red, white, and blue. And here at home, there were divisions as well. Ronald Reagan was in the White House, and Democrats controlled the House of Representatives. But when it came to foreign policy, there was much that Republicans and Democrats could agree on. Both believed, for example, that America should not only stand against communism, but also for democracy. For when President Reagan did, as we heard, proposed in a speech at Westminster that the United States should help others build the infrastructure of democracy, Congress took action. And they worked with the administration for the establishment of the National Endowment for Democracy, NDI, and our sister organizations. NDI was built on the premise that democracy is the best means yet discovered to make progress toward what most people want: security, justice, prosperity, and peace. To many of us, this assertion has seemed inarguable and validated by history and agreed to by much of the world. But today, across the globe, a new legion of antagonists has emerged. There are those, including some leaders chosen by democratic means, who claim that freedom must yield to other priorities, such as the pursuit of order. They want to take democracy out of the oven, leaving it half-baked, with non-competitive elections, a dependent judiciary, shortcuts to due process, laws that equate political opposition with treason, and a press that is discredited, harassed, and controlled. Just this week in the Philippines and Hungary, we saw this approach at work, with a prestigious university forced to leave Budapest and an award-winning journalist, former NDI Democracy Award recipient Maria Ressa, indicted in Manila. Leaders such as Viktor Orban and Rodrigo Duterte have said that these times demand a governing model that is more autocratic than democratic. There is a diplomatic term of art for such a thinking, and it starts with B, balderdash. History teaches us that individuals and groups who crave, then abuse authority will always be present among us. But to them, we have an answer, and it is spelled NDI. As you know, As you know, our institute does not line up with any political party in any country. We do not aim to transform or undermine any governments. We do not spread misinformation or propaganda. We go only where we are invited. But wherever we are, we stand with those who want to build strong and sustainable democratic institutions. To those sharing that hope, we offer the benefits of our experience, ideas, talents, dedication, and friendship. We offer confidence as well, for we believe that freedom's cause has never been more compelling. So let me be clear. Yes, democracy faces headwinds, but that makes our work more important than it has ever been, and we have the most incredible staff all over the world to prove it. Thankfully, we are far from alone. NDI is now part of a global network that includes thousands of small d Democrats. Year by year, we learn and gain strength from one another, and we have each other's backs. Together, we are dedicated to creating an enduring community of democratic citizens that will deliver on liberty's potential while promoting the ideals that bring us together. There are those who will tell you that it is naive to place faith in democratic values, especially in this age. But democracy builders, such as those who work with and for NDI, are as realistic and clear-eyed as any people on earth. We know that repression sows disorder, and that the hotspots most likely to harbor terrorists and generate waves of refugees are in the areas of the world that are non-democratic. We have lost too many friends to violence and injustice to think that liberty's triumph in any society is inevitable, or that even free people will always make wise choices. We know that creating a strong and healthy democracy is hard, but we have also seen miracles happen. In the 1980s, we promoted reforms that led to the rejection of longtime dictators in the Philippines and Chile, and we watched while a quiet man emerged from a prison in South Africa to defeat apartheid through the power of reconciliation and truth. In the 1990s, we helped dozens of newly free nations to assemble the nuts and bolts of democratic societies despite ideological divisions, economic fragility, shortages of resources, and crime. In the new century, we have had a hand in democratic survival and revival amid historic turbulence in the Arab world, on the Maidan, in Ukraine, in Ethiopia, Kenya, Liberia, and elsewhere. We do not offer easy answers or instant solutions, and we know that setbacks are inevitable. But across the globe, in remote villages and vast urban centers, we have seen people come together and raise their voices on behalf of social justice, the environment, universal access to education, and equal rights for women and the LGBTI community. We need to remember that many of them are looking to America as an example. And I've got to tell you, I'm never going to forget when I was speaking to members of the Egyptian parliament, and I said to them, it's really important to build coalitions and compromise. And they said, yeah, like you guys. So the bottom line is I think we need to be better examples. We are learning ourselves. We are learning ourselves every day that democracy requires tending and care. Its success also depends on leadership. And that's why it's so appropriate for us to reflect tonight on some of the heroic leaders we have served as its greatest champions. I want to thank Senator Sullivan and Ambassador Rice for their moving tributes to John McCain and Kofi Annan, two of our closest allies in the struggle of freedom. I was honored to know Kofi Annan before he became Secretary General and when he was, and he really was a remarkable person, as Susan has described, and a very good friend. I also got to know Senator McCain very well, and we traveled together and we were friends, and something that I will never forget was what it was like to be in Prague in June 1990 when we were there monitoring the elections. It was a lot of fun to take him around my hometown because I was born in Prague, and I did Madeleine's tour of Prague with him. And then we went to the Charter 77 headquarters once the election was over, and together we sang, "We Shall Overcome." And I will never forget that trip, but also my very, very close relationship with the chairman, and somebody that I really, truly admired. And I look forward very much now to working with Senator Sullivan. We are going to do this together. We have, as you mentioned, we've gotten to know each other before. I have the highest respect for you, and I look forward very much to continuing that incredible relationship between IRI and NDI. Thank you so much for being here. This evening, our thoughts and prayers are also with the Bush family as we join our fellow citizens in celebrating the legacy of President George H.W. Bush. He was vice president when NDI was established, and as president, he skillfully managed the end of the Cold War in a way that enabled democracy to return to the heart of Europe. His integrity, his decency, and his willingness to work across party lines are precisely the qualities we should demand from our leaders, and Mr. Bush will be remembered as one of America's very best. So I have Some of you may wonder where I spent Election Day. I voted early, and then I spent Election Day at the Bush Institute in College Park in Texas. And it really was a wonderful way to spend time in the apartment that the Bushes had at the library, and then to say and do what I truly believe in is bipartisanship. And he really made that very clear, that that was part of his legacy. Since its founding, NDI has benefited from the talented team of a lot of staff members that have devoted themselves to our mission. And for most of our history, the team was led by one of democracy's truest champions, Ken Wallach. As most of you know, Ken retired in September after serving as NDI's president for 25 years, and I would like all of you to join me in expressing our thanks to Ken, who joins us here tonight and will always be a part of our family. Stand up. Thank you very much. Thank you, Ken. I would also like all of you to join me in welcoming Ken's extraordinary successor, Ambassador Derek Mitchell. Derek's appointment as NDI's third president, as president is a true homecoming for Derek. Served NDI for nearly 4 years in the 1990s as our senior program officer for Asia and the former Soviet Union. Since that time, he has had a distinguished career in and out of government, culminating in his appointment as America's first ambassador to Myanmar in 22 years. Derek, I couldn't be happier to welcome you back, and I couldn't be more excited about what lies ahead for this organization. So tonight, we are not only looking backward, but also looking forward to our next 35 years. Thank you very much for becoming our president. We're looking forward to working with you. In that spirit, we're excited to celebrate a new generation that is working to protect freedom and human dignity around the world. NDI's Leadership in Democracy Award recognizes individuals and organizations who are changing the way we think about our mission. It is meant to honor unconventional thinking that reinforces a culture of democracy, recognizes and promotes fundamental human rights, and helps ensure that democracy delivers for all its citizens. This year, we celebrate the accomplishments of a man whose work is built on an idea that is central to democracy: the belief in the importance and value of every human being. Introducing Chef Jose Andres is a great honor for me personally, and it's not only just because I am a big fan of his restaurants, or because we're both immigrants and proud of it. For years, whenever I have spoken about the need for democracy to meet people's basic needs, I have summed matters up with a simple tagline: democracy has to deliver, because people want to vote and eat. NDI works to make sure that people can vote. Chef Andres works equally hard in a truly heroic fashion to make sure that people afflicted by disaster or hardship can eat and enjoy the dignity of a warm meal. From Haiti to Puerto Rico, from Tijuana to Indonesia, Chef Andres and his World Central Kitchen have been among the first to rush in, providing meals for people in dire situation and replacing despair with hope. His work has not only changed lives, it has transformed the way people think about disaster relief. In explaining what could drive a successful chef to take on the task of feeding the world, a good friend of his told me that, and I quote, "Everything about him is humanitarian. Giving his all to help people in need is Jose's natural state," unquote. Chef Andres is someone we are proud to have on democracy's side, and I'm especially delighted that we're able to honor him this week, exactly 5 years since he and his wife, Patricia, became naturalized American citizens. Welcome to you. So some of you always try to interpret what pins I have on. In case you haven't noticed, I have a spoon tonight in honor of somebody who feeds the people, and an American eagle of somebody who is proud to be an American. Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in welcoming to the stage a dreamer and a doer and a friend of freedom and a defender of human dignity, this year's Leadership in Democracy Award recipient, Chef Jose Andres.